Over time, traditional bonsai gets more refined, more beautiful. You can see this in the way the bark looks, the way the branches twist and turn. The movement of the tree is something that's developed over decades. It's got soul, it's got character. Stimulant bonsai are fast growing. They're often grafted onto a fast growing rootstock so that they will grow fast. And they do get big, but not necessarily in the way that you want them to get big. They might have some nice movements, but those movements tend to be somewhat shallow. There's not much substance to them. This branch here appears to be dead, but if you look at the branch collar, you can see that it's still alive. So this is why you call this a living dead branch. But what happens when you have one of these long, lanky, dead branches that grows out like this? Well, gravity pulls it down. Eventually, it touches the soil. At which point now, it is just a matter of time until that branch starts rooting itself into the ground. And at that point, well, you've got a problem. This is actually one of the reasons why I do like to grow stimulant bonsai, because what tends to happen is that these trees, they start off looking great, and then as they age, they tend to get pretty ugly. But then again, there are some people who prefer the surface beauty of the stimulant over the timeless beauty of a traditionally grown bonsai. That's why we have bonsai growers that specialize in stimulant bonsai. I think when most people picture a bonsai, they picture a pot like this. Maybe they'll be wrong. Maybe they'll be right. Either way, that's what they're gonna picture. But when most people see a stimulant bonsai for the first time, they're often blown away. They think it's really cool. When you first see one of these, you think it's absolutely stunning. This is the work of a very skilled artist. But what does it look like 5 years later? Well, it doesn't look that good, especially compared to what this one looked like when it was freshly styled. Now, this isn't the fault of the grower. This is the nature of the style. These trees are going to grow out quickly. They're going to grow up tall, but they're not going to have that graceful movement to them. Instead, they're going to have these awkward joints where there has been a lot of growth, and sometimes the bark is going to look bad. Sometimes it will split open, or it'll look like it's peeling apart. Now, if you like that look, if you think that this looks interesting, then maybe you're right and I'm wrong. But I think a lot of people aren't going to like this look. They're going to think it looks pretty ugly. Another thing that often happens with these stimulant bonsai is that they, well, grow out too big for their pot. We'll need to transplant them into a larger container. But then, well, you can only fit so many characters in a large container. And at that point, well, what do you do next? A few years later, you might even have to go back to an even bigger pot. Eventually, you get to a point where you can't go any bigger. And so, what do? Well, you chop the roots back and you put it in a smaller pot. Problem is, you've chopped the roots back quite a bit at this point. And so how big can this tree really get? Well, it can't really get all that big. And that's the problem with growing a stimulant bonsai. This is a Chinese elm. It's been grown in a stimulant style. It's a very popular style. It's called the sweeping style. I think it looks great. It looks strong. It looks powerful. It has a very nice presence to it, but let's take a look at the trunk of this tree. It's lumpy, it's bubbly, it looks messy, and this is the kind of stuff that happens with stimulant bonsai. When you speed up the growth, you often get poor wood formation. The wood isn't going to be tight and dense. Instead, it's going to be loose and airy. You'll notice this more with deciduous trees than you will with conifers. There are times where it's good to have loose, airy wood. In fact, I would say it's necessary to have loose, airy wood. When you're working with a very young tree and you're trying to bend it, if you try to bend a mature branch, it's probably not going to bend. You've got to catch it when it's young. You've got to catch it while it's green. But when you've got such thin, flimsy, weak wood, it makes it difficult to do any kind of serious bonsai styling. If you try to manipulate it too much, you'll end up breaking branches. And that's one of the reasons why I personally don't like to grow stimulant bonsai. It's a little too unpredictable. But again, this is just my opinion. I like the more refined look of traditional bonsai, but I know there are plenty of people who don't care for that look. They want something more wild, something more untamed. They want to see the power of the tree. To them, the surface beauty of the stimulant is more appealing. But when you grow a traditional bonsai, you're looking for perfection. You're looking for the most beautiful thing that you can possibly create. You're taking your time. You're doing it right. You're making sure every cut you make improves the tree. Every time you fertilize, you're trying to improve the tree. With stimulants, you're just kind of letting nature do its own thing. You're hoping that the tree is going to look good, but you're really not in control of the outcome. You're just hoping for the best. Sometimes less is more, and other times more is more. It really just depends on what you're after. I like the idea of being able to create something refined, something beautiful, something that you can appreciate for its timeless beauty. This is a Chinese juniper. It's been grown in a traditional style. It hasn't been forced to grow fast. It's taken a long time to develop the shape that it's in. There's no doubt that this tree is more than 100 years old. And it's not just the bark that tells us that. It's the overall structure of the tree, the way that it twists and turns. This is something that's developed over decades. Some people want something that looks really cool, really stunning, really impressive. And if that's the case, then the stimulant bonsai might be the way to go. It's the flashiest, it's the most exciting, it's the most fun, but it's also the least refined. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it is. Some people prefer the more refined look of a traditional bonsai, but they don't want to wait decades to get there. Is there a middle ground? Can you grow a bonsai without the use of stimulants and get there in a reasonable amount of time? I would say yes, you can do it. It's just not as common. What I'm talking about here is the effect of aging. How do you make a bonsai look older? Because when you think of bonsai, you think of a small tree, but you also think of an old tree. So how do you get that look? Well, you can make cuts in the bark of the tree. You can pull off the bark. You can char the bark. All of these things will make the tree look older. It will add texture to the bark. It will make it look more interesting. And this is why some people love the look of stimulant bonsai. But then again, there are some people who prefer the clean look of unadulterated bark. To them, that's what makes a bonsai bonsai. So what do you think? Do you like the surface beauty of the stimulant or the timeless beauty of the traditional? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.